Hoi hoi, alright, how's it going? I'm Grant, you're you. This is DoodleReview. It's been a while since we've had a tier list. IDLES just last month put out their 5th album, so it seems like a good combo. I say let's get to ranking. I feel like I listen to a lot of new artists all the time, but for some reason rarely do I get on board from like album 1 with a band that then go on to have an illustrious career. With IDLES, I can't claim to have been about during those pre-Brutalism EP days, but I was on the train from that first album, and it's been really rewarding not just to see them get bigger, but also kind of progress and expand in terms of their sound. And it doesn't mean I unquestionably love all of their stuff. This wouldn't be much of a video if I did, would it? But I do respect them, always enjoy hearing where they're going, and they are definitely not a band you want to miss live. So we're going to take this ranking from oldest release to newest, but before we get to the albums, I'm going to start with the EPs, Welcome and Meet, which we'll group together. Now, I actually wasn't familiar with these releases until really getting into them to kind of prep for doing this video, and I found them to be really interesting. Welcome in particular struck me because now with 12 or so years of further material, you can tell it's the band still kind of trying to find themselves, but if you didn't have that wider context, I'd say it's pretty accomplished and a really cool listen. It leans more into the dark indie aspect of their sound. I get a lot of Interpol from songs like 2627, and vocally both the way Talbot is singing but also how he's been produced is playing into a lot of that late 2000s indie vocal delivery, something that's best left in the past, even though it's not that egregious here. Germany and Two Tone give the clearest glimpses of where the band would take things, and then we get to Meet a couple of years later, and it's where they've kind of taken those aspects and really amped them up to produce that trademark aggressive, urgent, angular IDLES sound. Interestingly, of the two, I might actually prefer Welcome, and that might make sense considering how I tend to enjoy the softer side of the band that's emerged in their later years that other fans don't really care for. Anyway, I'm going to put both of these in the C tier. I think they're great, but definitely get outdone by the overwhelming majority of the rest of their material. So 2017 was the year the band dropped their debut, Brutalism, and it's a banger. On this record, they've really dialed in that urgent, driving, confrontational sound that they road tested on Meet and just kind of leveled everything up. Adam Devonshire's bass tone is exquisite. It's like a steel bucket of boiling gravel and right up front in the mix. And John Beavis' drums are played with the frantic energy of someone that's just noticed while playing that they've only got like a minute left on the booking on their rehearsal room and the other band are waiting impatiently outside. The album is largely a collection of solid hits to the face, whether it's Well Done or Stendhal Syndrome, which is what you want on a debut, but what the group do well is introduce these other elements that keep things nice and dynamic and engaging. 1049 Gotho has this really atmospheric guitar part in the chorus, which is my favourite on the album. Divide and Conquer has this slow, lumbering, intimidating brood to it, and Exeter has that sarcastic, upbeat gang vocal melody. For some people that I know, at least, this is the band at their peak. They think from here the band maybe get into kind of performative politics or whatever, and we'll get onto that in a bit, but I'm not in that camp. This is great. It's probably their best punk album for sure, but not the best thing they've done. I'm giving it an A. So the band were quick at releasing a follow-up to Brutalism, with Joy as an Act of Resistance dropping just over a year later. I talked about this a little during my long form review of Tank, but I feel like this album is where IDLES discovered their thing, this little added X factor that kind of slingshotted them to be about as big as you can get as an alternative band. Their big magic trick was kind of adopting just enough of a macho persona, an edge that would evoke and resonate with lad culture, a kind of footy hooliganism level of enthusiasm for their own music, talking about geezers doing gear and using funny bantery ways like to talk about it like Bag of Michael Keaton. It's a blokey demeanour, but they found a way to kind of wield that to talk about very liberal, very soft, sensitive lyrical themes that more often than not challenge, subvert or deconstruct toxic masculinity. The liberal politics were definitely there on Brutalism, but here with this particular skew on it, they drew in and infiltrated an audience while tapping into Corbyn era, post-Brexit, pre-Covid left-wing rage that was very much in the air in this country at the time. It felt like the band truly found their identity here, which definitely opened them up to, accusations of pandering, sloganeering and all that. But to me, I think more than just becoming part of their brand, I suppose you would call it, I think it actually galvanized the band's musical composition. It gave the weapon that is the band's post-punk sound a target, and both strengthened that's kind of strengthened each other. And it features some of the band's best up-tempo stuff, classics like I'm Scum, Danny Delco and Great, and of course continuing to show their emotional side with the heart-wrenching centerpiece June. I think this is hailed as the band's classic or definitive album. To me, I think it depends what way you look at it. From a point of view of capturing a moment in time beyond the music, yes. Musically, I don't know. I love this record, but I go back to it one of the least. The second half I don't actually find as compelling as the first, and on that basis, actually I think I'm going to put it in A. So barely a couple of years later, the band came through with Ultra Mono. To me, this album is IDLES, the IDLES sound refined to its absolute best version. There are certain artists where you can hear on each album that they're kind of seeking the same thing. They're in pursuit of one goal, and each time they get closer to it. I really see the first three IDLES albums like this. There is a direct, urgent, abrasive sound that's in their grasp, and each album is the band seeking a way to add an instant connection, an anthemic hook to that sound without selling out the punk of it all. Brutalism has some hooks buried in there, but it's a lot of style, it's a lot of tone, it's a lot of emotion first. Joy gets closer, they even crack it a few times with the big moments, but Ultra Mono is just boom. It's where the rubber meets the road when it comes to that aggression meets instant connection. It barely lets up from War to Danker, and it goes from light-hearted humour on Mr. Motivator to like violence on Reigns, which is probably my all-time favourite IDLES tune. I genuinely think the band literally completed it, mate, on this album, which is why on the subsequent records there's a real effort to find that next sound. I do get the criticisms that people level at the band on this one for, sloganeering and whatnot, but my view on that is like, yes, I think there could be a little truth in the accusations that IDLES use their ideology to pander and to further their brand, but at the end of the day, when it's a net positive message they're spreading, the fuck does it matter? The only time I feel you could genuinely criticise the band for it is if they turn out to be, massive right-wingers behind the scenes. As far as I'm concerned, if what they're doing is standing by what they believe in and it's a positive thing and the music is good, why do I really care if they actually benefit from the politics? Perhaps it's an aversion to feeling like you're being preached to, and while I get that and certainly understand the gut reaction to eye roll at a chorus of consent, you have to remember you're probably either eye rolling because the message is like, yeah, consent, obvious, I get it, in which case good on you. You've reached the minimum moral requirements to be a good human. But you got to remember that like the other group of people that are eye rolling do so because they don't believe in that simple fundamental act of respect, which kind of sadly gives credence to why these messages are so important. Now, if every chorus on the album had a blunt moral, instruction as its chorus, like no bigotry, equality, then yeah, I'd probably be inclined to say it's a bit much. But as it stands, that's not the case. Anyway, I think this album is the crystallization of this whole first period of IDLES music, and it's going in the S tier. So the band followed up Ultra Mono within 18 months, putting out Crawler in 2021. Immediately, I think on this record, produced by Kenny Beats, who's known mostly for his prolific hip-hop career, you could hear Talbot and co attempting to fan their sound out into some different territory. While on the whole the album is actually probably 70 to 80% fast-paced, aggressive cuts, it's the darker, moodier, more expansive and atmospheric tracks like MTT 420RR, When the Lights Come On and the Beachland Ballroom that make the strongest impression, actually kind of colouring my whole memory of the album. The record has some of the loosest performances from the band on this one, and I really like that. My favourite thing in rock, particularly alternative rock, is when a band nails this sound of being ragged, wild and loose, but at the same time super tight. It's kind of like the audio version of a raw nerve. It's what bands like Jesus Lizard, who I know IDLES consider as an influence, do really well, and the band tap into some of that here. I do like this album, but it just never kind of connected me in the same way as the others. I briefly alluded to up top, I actually enjoy the band's softer, more explorative moments, so I don't think it's the expanded sound that's put me off. There's just something that doesn't click in the way the first 3 albums did. I think some of the weirdest tracks are some of the coolest I've heard the band produce. Progress, for instance, you know, how they kind of meditate on Talbot's hypnotic vocal melody and introduce all of these weird elements. MTT, how it sounds like the start of a racing game or something. I love it. There's other tracks though, like Meds and Kingsnake, that just don't leave that much of an impression. I'm putting it in C, though it has its highlights for sure. And that takes us to Tank, the latest record. I'm still sitting on this one. You can find my full long form review in the description if you fancy it. This record sees the band continuing their search for what the next sound could be, I think. Of course, there are some rockers. They're probably the least interesting to me. Like I said, I think they really completed that sound on mono, and it's hard for them to create something in that vein that doesn't feel like a bit of a rehash. Songs like Pop 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 are the most promising indicator of where I think the band could go, and there are some really cool explorations in sound here, like Idea 1, Dancer and Monolith. When Crawler first came out, I think I gave it like a 7, and this was a 6.4, but over time I feel like those two things are shifting, and I actually think already just a month later that this record just has something that Crawler didn't have. I think I'm going to put this in B, and I'm really interested to see if it will continue to grow on me throughout the year. Alright, that's it. We can knock it on the head. If you've made it this far, let me know what you think in the comments. What would your ranking would have been? I've done quite a few tier lists on bands now, so check them out in the description or find the full playlist. Let me know who I should rank next maybe, and if you're new here, don't fuck about, just subscribe, share some thoughts, show some love, or just hurl some abuse in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers mate, bye.